If life feels too exhausting, listen to these 10 stories to awaken your wisdom. Life doesn't always go smoothly. There are always obstacles that stand in our way. That's why we must learn how to overcome difficult situations as quickly as possible. On the journey of life, which is full of hardships, sometimes it helps to just pause for a moment and listen to meaningful stories. You'll realize that there are things in life that need to change, and some things you need to do. These stories will help you grow, and what you learn from them may benefit you in the future. Let's reflect on the philosophy of the East together. Story 1. Where does a person's true value lie? There once was a beggar who had lost his right arm. He looked so pitiful that anyone who saw him would give him money. One day he came to a farmer's house to beg for food. The woman of the house said, "Before I give you anything, please move that pile of bricks from the gate into the yard." The beggar got angry and said, "You clearly see that I only have one arm. Are you mocking me by asking me to move bricks?" But to his surprise, the woman sat down and using just one hand began moving the bricks. After she was done, she looked at the beggar and said, "I only have one hand too, but I can still move them. Why can't you?" The beggar didn't know how to respond. In the end, he slowly moved the pile of bricks using his one hand. It took him 2 hours and sweat covered his whole face. The woman then handed him a white towel. After wiping his face and neck, the towel had turned completely black. She gave him 50,000 Vietnamese dong, about $2, and he thanked her repeatedly. She said, "No need to thank me. This is your wage. You earned it with your sweat." The beggar said, "I will never forget what you did for me. May I keep this towel as a reminder?" Years later, that same beggar came back dressed in a sharp suit. He visited the same farmer's home and saw that the woman had grown old. Touched, he said, "I used to be a beggar. Now I'm the president of a company. It's all thanks to you. You helped me regain the dignity I had lost. Without you, I'd probably still be wandering the streets." The woman replied, "You did this yourself." The man offered to buy her a new house, but she gently refused. He couldn't understand why she wouldn't accept his gift. She smiled and said, "Everyone in my family has only one hand. To preserve our dignity, we must respect ourselves, respect the people we know, and even respect those we don't know. When we find value through our work, life becomes meaningful. Do the things you believe in, even if the money you make isn't much. Your soul will be richer than many people with wealth but no inner peace. Don't see your misfortune as something too big. There are people in this world who suffer far more. When you see your pain as small, you'll find it easier to move on and create a better, more joyful life. The most valuable parts of a person are the heart and the mind. When you awaken the goodness in your heart, your mind becomes more creative, and that's when miracles happen. A missing arm, like the beggar's, is only a small obstacle. With just one change in mindset, he went from beggar to company president. Speaking of physical disabilities, there's hardly anyone more physically challenged than Nick Vujicic. Born without arms or legs, he never gave up or drowned in sadness. He built a successful career, a happy family, and became an inspiration to millions of disabled and able-bodied people around the world. Your character is what gives you true value. Even with a weak body, if your spirit is strong and your heart is full of purpose, you can still be someone worthy of admiration and respect.
Story 2. Reverse thinking creates miraculous breakthroughs. The biggest difference between a successful person and an average person is how they think. Successful people look at a problem from different perspectives, and when they're in a tough situation, they know how to use reverse thinking, thinking from the opposite angle. 2.1. Free Wi-Fi as home security. There was a wealthy man who always worried someone would break into his house whenever he left. He thought about buying a guard dog, maybe even a wolf dog mix, but then he worried about the cost of feeding it. After thinking long and hard, he came up with a clever solution. Before leaving his house each day, he would remove the password from his home Wi-Fi and rename it Free Wi-Fi. From that day on, There were always 10 to 20 people standing outside his house every day, using the free internet. His house became one of the safest in the neighborhood, and he no longer worried about break-ins. Reverse thinking. When you change how you look at a problem, the solution can be totally different. 2.2. The Tomato Trick. A rich man went to the market to buy tomatoes. He asked the vendor, "How much per pound?" The seller said, $7.50 a pound. The man picked up 2 average-sized tomatoes and placed them on the scale. Then he grabbed a big, heavy tomato and added it to the scale. The vendor looked and said, "That'll be $5. The man took the large tomato off the scale and said, "I don't want that one." The vendor looked annoyed and said rudely, "Fine, $4 then." In reality, the big tomato weighed more than the 2 smaller ones. It was clear the vendor was trying to cheat. People around were upset, but the rich man stayed calm. He took out $4 and handed it to the vendor, then picked up only the big tomato, not the 2 small ones. He smiled and walked away. Reverse thinking. Instead of getting angry, he solved the problem creatively and got the best tomato for the price he wanted. 2.3. The Chicken Pond. A man opened a fishing pond where people paid $8 to fish, but most customers couldn't catch any fish all day. To keep people coming, the owner made a new rule. If you don't catch any fish, you'll get a free chicken. Soon the pond was packed every day. People fished all day and happily walked home with a free chicken if they caught nothing. What they didn't know was the owner was actually a chicken farmer. He didn't make money from the fish. His goal was to sell more chickens. Reverse thinking. He changed the way people saw the offer, but still met his business goal. 2.4. Charlie Munger's Advice. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner, was once asked, "How do you find a great business partner?" He replied, "First, you have to become someone who is smart and trustworthy, because good people don't partner with fools." Reverse thinking. Before asking for help or partnership, become the kind of person that others want to work with. 2.5. Nelson Mandela's Forgiveness. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. During that time, he was mistreated by the guards, but after he became president, he invited 3 of those prison guards to his inauguration. When Mandela stood up and showed them respect, everyone in the crowd fell silent. He said, "When I walked out of that prison door and into freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave behind my pain and anger, I would still be in prison." Reverse thinking. Forgiving others is a powerful way to free yourself. 2.6. Candy and Quiet. There was an old man who loved peace and quiet, but every day noisy children ran around near his home. He came up with a plan. He invited the kids over and said, "Thanks for playing here. You bring such energy. I love it." Then he gave each child 3 pieces of candy. The kids were thrilled and came back every day. After a few days, he gave only 2 candies, then 1, then none. The kids got upset and said, "If we're not getting any candy, we're not playing here anymore." And just like that, the old man got his peace back. Reverse thinking. If you know what motivates people, you can gently guide their behavior without force. Story 3. Anger is natural, but controlling it is strength. You may have been in situations like this. Someone at work blames you unfairly. A motorbike nearly hits you because it's going the wrong way. Your child keeps asking the same question over and over, even after you've explained it many times. In these moments, our natural reaction is to get angry. But if we always act on our emotions, arguing, yelling, or losing control, we not only fail to solve the problem, we may actually create more problems. The airport incident. One night, a man was driving to the airport to pick up his older brother. At a traffic light, the light turned green, but the three-wheeled motorbike in front of him didn't move. The car behind him honked loudly and repeatedly. The man rolled down his window to look ahead, and the driver behind him yelled, "What are you staring at? Move already!" The man got angry and yelled back, "It's not me! The motorbike in front is blocking the way. Can't you see?" But at that moment, his older brother, sitting next to him, signaled to calm down. Then his brother rolled down his own window, turned to the driver behind them, and said politely, "Excuse me, there's a motorbike in front that hasn't moved. I'll go check." He got out of the car and walked up to the motorbike. It turned out the driver of the motorbike was on the phone and hadn't seen the green light. After the intersection cleared, the younger brother said, "You're too kind. That driver behind us was clearly wrong and rude. Why be so polite to him?" The older brother replied, "Arguing won't help. It won't solve anything. If you can stay calm and hold back, that's real wisdom. That's true strength." Not everyone is born with the ability to stay calm. It's something we gain through time, maturity, and life experience. The older brother used to have a short temper when he was young, always clashing with others. But over the years, working far from home and climbing from a regular employee to a senior manager, he learned self-control. The stronger his abilities became, the more humble his attitude grew. The truth about anger is one of the lowest level emotions in human nature. When a person loses their calm and their gentle spirit, it's like they've taken a step backward in life. So if you want to keep good luck, success, and peace in your life, learn to control your temper. Story 4. If you want to keep good luck, first learn to control your temper. In life, you may run into people you don't like, situations that feel unfair, or even fail at something important. All of this is normal. Oh, that's life. So don't get angry. Don't complain. Don't compare yourself to others. Why? Because in the end, these reactions only bring more pain. If you can't even control your emotions, then even if someone handed you the whole world, you'd ruin it in no time. A costly kick. There was once a teenage boy delivering food. He was in a rush and just missed the elevator. Frustrated, he kicked the elevator door over and over. Security called the police because he had damaged public property. When questioned, the boy said, "I was already in a bad mood because of stuff at home. Missing the elevator just pushed me over the edge." The hotel staff eventually accepted his apology, but the damage had already been done. He was fined half a month's wages. One angry kick could have landed him in jail. Instead, it cost him dearly. What we learn. Someone once said, "Nothing goes smoothly in life because we haven't learned to control our temper." If you're short-tempered, you'll hurt others, and hurt yourself too. Learn to stay calm. Don't panic when things go wrong. Be patient. Doing this not only protects your peace, it brings blessings into your life. The power of emotional control. As an adult, you can achieve so much more if you learn how to manage your emotions. Whether in love or in life, many studies and real experience show this. People who know how to control their feelings are often happier, more successful, and luckier than those who don't. Story 5. Learn not to get angry, and learn to open your heart. Very few people are born with a calm and gentle temper. Most of us learn to control our emotions over time, through life's ups and downs, through painful lessons. In life, we often see something very common. The less capable a person is, the more easily they lose their temper. But the more capable someone is, the calmer and more composed they become. That doesn't mean they don't get angry. It means they know how to control themselves. You can't expect everyone to understand you. If you're excellent at something, some people will get jealous. They'll focus on your flaws, criticize you, and even make trouble for you without reason. If you're not doing well, people may look down on you. That's just human nature. So if you keep getting angry over things like this, you'll spend your whole life upset, because there will always be something to be angry about. The classic monk conversation. The famous Zen monk Han Shan once asked his fellow monk Shu Dei, "If someone insults me, lies about me, humiliates me, laughs at me, looks down on me, hates me, or cheats me, what should I do?" Shode replied, "Just tolerate him, let him be, respect him, ignore him, wait a few years. When you see him again, if you never got angry back then, you have already won." In life, if you want to live well, what matters isn't just what you accomplish, but how you handle your heart. Your attitude shapes your life. A person with a good mindset will handle all the little annoyances of daily life with peace and calm. They'll find joy in the ordinary. They'll make life feel brighter, even in simple everyday moments. Most of life doesn't go the way we want. So when something feels unfair or frustrating, tell yourself, "It's okay. This will pass." Then smile and keep going. Life is short. I hope you learn to manage your temper and live with joy, because that's how you'll attract good things into your life. Story 6. Don't let negative thoughts make you look down on yourself. Henry Frederick Amiel once said, "A person's true value doesn't come from what they have, or even what they do. It comes from who they are." The $100 lesson. A speaker walked into a quiet auditorium. He slowly pulled out a crisp $100 bill from his wallet and held it up. Then he asked the audience, "Who wants this 100 bill?" Everyone raised their hands. Then he asked again, "Who really wants this $100? Most people kept their hands up. Some even reached higher. He smiled and said, "All right, but before I give it away, let me do something first." He crumpled the bill into a tight ball. Then he threw it on the floor and stepped on it. He picked it up, dirty and wrinkled, and asked, "Who still wants it now?" Almost every hand went back up. The speaker said, "Even after being crumpled and stepped on, This $100 bill still has value. It's still worth 100 lits. So no matter what happens to you in life, no matter how dirty or broken the world makes you feel, you still have value. Don't ever let anyone or anything make you forget that. Miley Cyrus, a real-life reminder. This story reminds me of pop star Miley Cyrus. At just 16, she became a household name through the Disney movie Hannah Montana. She was called America's sweetheart, loved by fans, praised by the media, and expected to become a megastar. But as she grew older, things changed. She went through rebellious phases. She wore bold outfits. She made controversial choices. Some parents even banned their kids from watching her. Her life became a tabloid favorite. Many believed her behavior was because of heartbreak, after her fiancé, Liam Hemsworth, broke off their engagement. They said she was spiraling out of control. But here's the thing. Miley was still Miley. She never stopped caring about others. She donated part of her income to her Happy Hippie Foundation, which helps the homeless, LGBTQ+ youth, and other vulnerable communities. Even when headlines only showed her scandals, she was out there doing good. Later, when she reunited with Liam and released her gentle song Malibu, the public saw a softer Miley again. She proved that, beneath all the noise, she still had a kind and genuine heart. The lesson. People may say you're not a good example. People may not understand you. But if you're being true to yourself, if you're still helping others, if you haven't lost your heart, you still hold your full value. No matter what the world says, live honestly. Live with your heart. You only get one life. No one is perfect. And no one can live to please everyone. So please, live for yourself. Story 7. The Three Apple Sellers. In a small town, 3 young men decided to leave home to chase business opportunities. They traveled far and discovered a region known for its large, sweet, red apples. The first young man. He saw the apples and immediately spent all his money to buy tons of the best ones. He shipped them back to his hometown and sold them at a much higher price. He made a big profit and became rich quickly. The second young man. He spent half his money to buy 100 of the best apple seedlings. He brought them home, rented a piece of land on a hillside, and started planting them. The third young man. He didn't rush. Instead, he spent several days walking around apple orchards, observing the land, the soil, and the growing environment. He took a small bag of soil home to study it. Then, he rented an unused, barren hillside near his home. He spent the next 3 years improving the soil and taking care of the land. After the soil was ready, he imported the same high-quality apple trees and planted them. Years later, the first man was still buying and selling apples, but his profits had shrunk. The market became competitive. Transport and storage costs kept rising. Sometimes he even lost money. The second man had his own orchard now. Though his apples weren't as good as the first man's, he didn't have to pay for transport or storage, so he still made a decent profit. The third man, his apples were the best in the region, sweet, high quality, and famous. Customers came from far away, and he sold them at premium prices. The lesson. This is how life works. The less value you add to a final product, the less income you'll earn. A manager or executive earns more because they have a vision that looks ahead 1 to 2 years. An entrepreneur earns even more because their vision reaches 10 to 20 years into the future. Success is determined by your long-term thinking. All three men had the same opportunity, but different strategies brought very different results. The first man made money fast, but it didn't last. The third man played the long game and became the most successful. Big reward comes from deep thinking and long-term planning. Story 8. Don't let yourself die at 25 and get buried at 75. There's an old saying, haste makes waste. But there's also another, strike while the iron is hot. These two sayings seem to contradict each other. So which is better? Moving fast or moving carefully? Everyone knows, if you want to make money, you have to act fast. Grab opportunities before others do. Sometimes even pigs can fly if they ride the right wind. But here's the question. Why do some people miss clear opportunities even when they're right in front of them? It's not because they're not smart. It's because they're too slow to act. Frank's Ice Cream Empire. In the 1970s in California, there was a young man named Frank. He came from a poor family and had to drop out of school. He moved to Chicago to survive. He had no money, no connections, no workspace. So he started shining shoes on the street. 6 months later, he saved up enough money to open a small ice cream shop. He even kept his old shoe-shining stand outside the shop. Business was good, really good. He expanded. One shop became several. At its peak, Frank owned over 4,000 ice cream stores, capturing 70% of the U.S. ice cream market. Meanwhile, another young man named Steve was also in Chicago. He came from a wealthy family. He noticed how well Frank's ice cream business was doing. He told his father, "Dad, I think this ice cream business is really promising." But his dad dismissed him. "Don't be silly." A year later, Steve brought it up again. This time, his dad admitted, "You're right, it does look promising." But by then, it was too late. Frank had already taken over the market. The lesson speed equals wealth. Many people think that to succeed, they need to research endlessly. Ask lots of opinions, play it safe. But the truth is, opportunity doesn't wait. There's no perfect formula. You must act, learn, adjust as you go. If you hesitate, you'll miss out. As the saying goes, now or never. When it comes to love, just say it, in the Eastern Han Dynasty, there was a woman named Miss Man. She wasn't beautiful and had dark skin, but she was strong. She could lift a millstone. She told her father, "I want to marry Luong Hong. I admire his character and values." When Luong Hong heard this, he was touched and quickly sent a proposal gift. Their story became so famous, it gave birth to the Chinese idiom "Ku An Te Mi," which describes a couple who respect and love each other deeply. In ancient times, it was rare for a woman, especially one from a modest background, to choose her own husband. But she had the courage to speak her heart. There's a quote from a movie I once saw, "Look out the window. If the tree branch sways gently in the wind, the one you love also loves you. Listen to your heartbeat. If you can hear it, the one you love also loves you. Close your eyes. If you smile when you think of them, then your love is real. Many people miss their chance at love simply because they hesitated. How many times have you felt a spark when a stranger smiled at you? But you didn't say a word, and in just one moment, they were gone. Speak up. Don't wait. Even if the relationship lasts only a few months or a year, if it brings joy, it was worth it. Turn things around quickly. There was once a singer named Trung Tin Triet who appeared on the show The Voice. Some people have said he was a washed-up artist, but he said, "Yes, my time may have passed. Every field changes over time." The host replied, "Sure, Michael Jordan may not be what he once was on the court, but he's still a legend in everyone's heart." If you take more than 2 minutes to decide in a crisis, the moment may be lost. Quick thinking and courage are more important than being perfect. The psychology behind action. There's a psychological term called ego depletion. When you don't act but keep overthinking, you drain your energy. You lose motivation. You feel stuck. To avoid that, take action. But of course, action without preparation is risky. So always, build your skills. Stay ready. Be brave. Because opportunity only comes to those who are prepared. Every time you act, you grow. Story 9. Giving someone an exit might be giving yourself a way out. One evening, in a small fast food restaurant, there were only 3 customers: an old man, a young man, and me. Because there weren't many people, the lights were dimmed. I sat alone at a corner table by the window, quietly eating my dinner. The young man sat near the door, holding a bowl of noodles. The old man was sitting just a few feet away from him. As I glanced around, I noticed something strange. The young man kept glancing at the old man's smartphone, which was sitting on the table. Suddenly, when the old man turned away to light a cigarette, the young man quickly grabbed the phone and slipped it into his coat pocket. He then stood up, trying to leave the restaurant casually. But the old man quickly noticed his phone was gone. He calmly looked around, then stood up and walked toward the young man just as he reached for the door handle. I was nervous. I thought, the old man won't be able to handle this. He's too frail. But then he said, "Son, please wait." The young man froze. "Is there a problem?" he asked. The old man replied, "Yesterday was my daughter's 10th birthday. She gave me a smartphone as a gift. I don't really like using it, but it meant a lot to me. It was a sign of her love. I had it on the table just now, and now it's gone. I think it might have fallen. I have back pain and poor eyesight, so it's hard for me to look for it. Could you please help me find it?" The young man's face changed. The tension disappeared. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Don't worry, sir. I'll help you." He crouched down and started looking around the table. A moment later, he pulled the phone from under the table and said, "Is this the one?" The old man smiled, gently took the phone, and said, "Yes, thank you so much. You're very kind. You can go now." The young man trembled slightly. He turned his face away and rushed out the door. I was left speechless by what I had just witnessed. After the young man left, I walked over to the old man and asked, "You knew your phone was stolen. Why didn't you call the police?" His answer stayed with me for a very long time. He said, "If I had reported him, I might have gotten my phone back, but I would have lost something far more valuable: compassion, the lesson. Sometimes offering someone a way out is the same as saving a part of yourself. Compassion doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong in a way that changes lives, maybe even saves them." Story 10. If you choose to be a good person, be good all the way. My parents made a living running a small corner shop. My dad divided the store into two parts: the front to sell groceries, and a small back room with a bed where he could rest and cook lunch when working long hours. Their business was steady. Most of their customers were neighbors. During my summer break in 8th grade, I often helped out at the store. Dad asked me to manage the cash register so I could get better at math and improve my grades. I was still a kid who loved to run around, but now I had to sit still behind the counter, playing with my phone and keeping watch over the shop. One morning, I woke up early, finished my chores, and biked to the store. It was only 8 a.m. When I got there, I saw an old lady in worn-out clothes leaving with a small bag of rice. She took 10,000 Vietnamese dong, about $0.4, from my dad, and slowly walked away. "Dad, I'm here early today," I said proudly. Dad glanced at me and said, "Wow, the sun isn't even up yet," teasing me as he sat down. Then I asked, "Why did that lady buy such a tiny bit of rice?" Dad replied, "She doesn't have much money. She only bought 300 grams. I thought for a second and calculated, if a kilo is 15,000, then 300 grams would cost about 4,500. "But Dad gave her 10,000 in change?" I gasped. "Dad, did you give her the wrong change? She only paid 5,000. Dad waved his hand and said softly, "She's an old neighbor from our old neighborhood. She's widowed, lives alone, no kids. She survives on a small welfare check and picks up recycling. She's been shopping with us for over 10 years. No matter what she buys, she always comes here. But for the past 2 years, she's been showing signs of memory loss. Sometimes she seems confused, like she doesn't really know what's going on. So for the last 2 years, whenever she comes to buy 300 grams of rice with her 5,000 Vietnamese dong, I give her 10,000 back." Dad looked thoughtful. "If she doesn't have that tiny bit of help, how would she buy rice, vegetables, or other necessities? How would she live?" I sat there silently looking at my 50-year-old father and realized the Superman dad in my childhood had aged. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Dad getting ready. We ate the noodles Mom made, then rode to the shop together. Not long after we opened, the old woman came again. Her hands trembled as she pulled 5,000 Vietnamese dong from her pocket, smiling. I gently took the money, smoothed it out, and placed it in the drawer. Then I carefully scooped rice into a plastic bag, tied it, and handed it to her. "Here you go, Grandma, 300 grams of rice." She took the bag slowly. It seemed heavy for her. She looked up at me, her eyes wide. "Oh, you forgot to give me my change," she said. I scratched my head, smiled, and quickly handed her a 10,000 bill. She tucked it carefully into her pocket and slowly walked away. Dad playfully knocked on my head and said, "Nice job. Your bag of rice was at least 2 kilos. I smiled. Dad added, "If you're going to do good, do it all the way. If you're going to help someone, help them to the end." In that moment, I felt proud, tall, warm, and somehow more grown up. The days that followed. From then on, I followed Dad to the store regularly. Every time we opened, the old lady came by for rice. She always gave 5,000 and left with both rice and 10,000 in change. We got used to the routine. Then one day, she didn't come. A few days passed. I asked Dad, "Where's the old lady?" Dad said, "I heard she's in the hospital. She's sick. She only has that tiny welfare check and her recycling. Life's been too hard on her." Dad looked tired and sad. A few days later, Dad received a letter. It was from someone acting on behalf of the old woman. Inside was a property deed and a will. The letter read, "Dear Mr. High and your son, thank you. In the last years of my life, your kindness helped me survive. If it weren't for you, I might not have made it this far. I'm leaving my old house, my only possession, to you and your son. Thank you again. From heaven, I will pray for you both." Dad held the letter and cried. His tears fell silently. He couldn't even finish reading it out loud. I hugged him tightly. The lesson true kindness is done quietly and completely. Not for thanks, not for reward, just because it's right. And sometimes it comes back to you in the most unexpected, beautiful ways.